So the issue I have with generative AI seems to be that it's like a bullshitter, right? It's like someone who's ultra confident and superficially seems to know what they're talking about. But when you dig into it more than a superficial amount, you realize it's total nonsense. And this seems to me, I mean, maybe it's going to be improved over time. I mean, I would expect it to be improved over time. But at the moment, it's a little bit dangerous in that regard, because if people who can't recognize bullshit start using it, then we're just going to have what we assume to be de-sybiled attack vectors of society kind of re-sybiled, because crappy AI will be speaking through vast amounts of not so clever people and making them look a lot cleverer than they are, but still not clever enough that what they're saying makes sense.
What? Because there's like this mass behind them because everybody's saying the same thing? I mean, what you mean?
At the moment, we assume that when someone says or writes something, if they're saying or writing a lot, and if it looks like it might make sense, there is a sort of a threshold that they have crossed and they should be listened to. They are at a minimum intellect level to be able to write something that is grammatically correct and doesn't use all caps and hyphen and so forth. Plus, they have dedicated enough of their personal time to writing it. So there's a natural de-sibling, right, of information coming to us if it appears to be coming from a person. And so we can give it the time of day. We can have a look at it and see if it's reasonable. And the issue is that as AI becomes more prevalent, this natural de-sibling falls by the wayside. It's no longer resilient. It's no longer reliable. Anyone can basically take the output of an AI and suggest that it's what they have written and think. Yeah. And now we have the problem that we cannot rely merely on an utterance coming from a person that seems to be well formed, having any amount of intellectual robustness. Like, we actually have to dedicate the effort to reading it through and trying to work out its underlying meaning.
Yeah, right.
And this is the problem. We're going to be deluged with novel bullshit. And this, I think, is the big problem that the world is facing with generative AI. It's like novel bullshit. It's novel because we haven't seen it before and it appears to be legit, and yet it's bullshit because if you scratch the surface, you realize that it doesn't make any sense. I don't disagree that AI poses some new problems, though I kind of dislike the vibe that all of the established powers of the world are against AI, because it feels like they're mostly against AI in some sense challenging the authority of the established narrative.
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely. There's a whole conversation there. What will the systems of governance look like when some of the actors are artificial? So you don't see AI as an existential threat? Like when computers start being able to articulate matter, for instance, and they're making decisions of how to do so? You don't see that as an existential threat?
I think there's a lot of existential threats to our existence, but I think the biggest one, I don't see AI as being the one that's on the horizon right now.
Gotcha.
I think the one that's on the horizon right now is people with no great or no foundational stake in society getting to the point where they can destabilize our current physical environment. So I'm thinking in particular, nuclear weapons and the increasing, the lack of resilience our society seems to have, our civilization seems to have for managing the fact that, we are a couple of button clicks away from annihilation.
Yes, that's right.
And it's like, we've kind of managed for the last 50 years or so. Not having those buttons be clicked.
Right.
But
that probability is...
over time, they will get clicked, right? Over a sufficiently long period of time.
That's right.
The noise function, which is human action, means that they will get clicked. And so we have to really come up with a better, a more resilient system for managing this. And it seems that at the moment we're going in the wrong direction. We're going in the opposite direction. We're increasing the noise function next to those very, very like exterminate humanity buttons.
Right.
And that's really not so good. So I would say I'd say this is the bigger existential threat at the moment. So I definitely think clever machines will be a destabilizing effect on society, like most groundbreaking technology is. Will they be able to be regulated and managed by the current powers that be? Probably more so than decentralized technology, yes, simply because AI is a necessarily centralized technology at the moment. It requires huge amounts of compute power to develop these models, and it's pretty easy to work out where that compute power is and knock on their door if they're doing something wrong.
Sure, yeah, that's right.